An international team of researchers has been analysing ancient DNA from prehistoric human remains, and they've uncovered some of the earliest cases of Down syndrome. And the way those bodies were buried suggests they were valued members of their ancient societies. Dr. Ben Rawlak is from the University of Adelaide and led the team that made this inquiry. He joins us now. Hi, Ben. How did this project begin?
It was really just a conversation between myself and a colleague at the Institute in Germany, and we were really interested in looking at the way that DNA maps to different parts of the chromosomes in our database, and we thought we would check to see if any of the samples had more DNA mapping to chromosome 21 than expected. That was kind of it.
So where did the samples come from?
Probably due to sampling reasons. They were all European. There's better conditions for DNA preservation there, but there were some in Iron Age Spain, but they dated to as far back as Copper Age Bulgaria, about 5,500 years ago, and as recent as about 250 years ago in Finland.
So you found 6 people with Down syndrome. Is examining the DNA the only way to detect that condition?
It's certainly the only reliable way to detect that condition from bones. As you see from the pictures, they're often quite fragmented, and it's very difficult to pick up the many different physical symptoms that come with Down syndrome, but it was glaringly obvious from the genetic data.
So what else could you tell from the remains then, Ben, in terms of the age they died and how they died?
So of the 6 individuals mentioned, only 2 of them survived past birth at our estimates. The eldest maybe being 12 to 18 months at the time of death, but the expected lifespan of somebody with trisomy 21 or Down syndrome at that time would have been quite young. But what we can tell is that they were still loved and cared for, and that was sort of the important message that we got from the remains and how they were buried.
And how could you tell that?
Well, we could compare it to burials of the time. They were all from different times, so you had to compare them to different kinds of burials. But for example, the individuals we found in Iron Age Spain were buried within the homes. It's called intramural burial, and they would be then with the people after the burial whenever they were home. And what was remarkable was that everyone else, adults and children at the time, were cremated, so it was especially touching that they would be in the home.
Ben, you also found the remains of an infant with Edwards syndrome. What is Edwards syndrome?
If Down syndrome is the condition caused by carrying 3 copies of chromosome 21 instead of the normal 2, then Edwards syndrome is 3 copies of chromosome 18 instead of the normal 2. And unfortunately, it brings with it far more severe physical symptoms. So we found a bone that we couldn't even really identify because it was twisted and malformed, and this individual likely didn't make it past the 2nd trimester. Even today, it's a very fatal condition.
And is this the first time, Ben, that these syndromes have been identified by analysing DNA records?
We know of one other case which was identified but not analysed from Neolithic Ireland, and that would have been 7,500 years ago. And we were able to get that data and confirm that result as well.
So from the data you've worked with, can we draw any conclusions about the rates of genetic issues then to the numbers that we see today?
We did analyse this, and we did find that they were slightly lower than expected. One of the only factors we know that can cause an increase in the rate of these conditions is the age of the mother, and so maybe that played a role, but it's also very difficult to say what we didn't observe, since by definition these little children are very difficult to find in the archaeological record, so we're not sure what we didn't see. So I think it would take a brave statistician to read too much into those numbers.
Ben Rawlak, thank you.
Thank you.